On her birthday, Ren Scott bought herself a plane ticket to Country A. The moment the booking confirmation popped up on her screen, Lachlan Cameron walked through the door. Before he even had a chance to take off his coat and hang it on the rack, he approached Ren, holding a pink gift box. "Sorry I'm a little late." "Happy birthday, Rennie." He opened the box to reveal a diamond necklace that glittered with a brilliant light. He took out the necklace, brushed aside Ren's hair, and fastened it around her neck. Ren didn't move. Unlike the delight she would have shown in the past, she simply offered a soft Lachlan's hands faltered for a second. Assuming she was still angry, he wrapped his arms around her from behind. His warm breath tickled her ear, and Ren instinctively flinched away. He didn't notice, continuing to coax her. "Rennie, Joselyn Rivers just got back in the country. She doesn't have any family here anymore. We're all friends in the same circle, so it was only right for me to throw her a welcome party. You've never liked those kinds of events, so I didn't invite you. But I didn't forget it was your birthday. I'm just a little late. Don't be mad at me." Hearing this, Ren didn't question him hysterically like she used to. Instead, with a placid expression, she gave a perfunctory nod. "I understand. Since she's all alone and helpless, you should take good care of her." Lachlan was a little surprised. "You don't mind anymore?" Ren pulled away from his embrace and looked calmly into his deep eyes. Mind what? Should she mind that in the 5 years they'd been together, they exchanged less than 10 messages a day, yet he spent an hour on the phone with Joselyn Rivers every night? Should she mind that Joselyn was his pinned chat, while she was always on Do Not Disturb? Or should she mind that, when Joselyn had broken up with him to go abroad for her career, she had tearfully declared that if she came back within 10 years, they would get back together? And that on the very day Joselyn returned, he had immediately scrambled to throw her a lavish welcome party, even abandoning Ren to spend her birthday alone? The old Ren would have minded. But now, she didn't. Because she was planning on leaving him. Ren kept these thoughts to herself, only offering a slight smile. "Didn't you tell me to be more understanding? So, I can be very understanding. So understanding, in fact, that I'm prepared to let you have each other." Lachlan frowned, looking at Ren's calm face and feeling that something was off. But he didn't overthink it and simply let out a breath of relief. "As long as you're not angry. I didn't eat much at the party. I'm starving now." "Oh," Ren replied evenly, then turned to go into her room. Lachlan was stunned. He subconsciously grabbed her wrist, his gaze complex. "You're just leaving?" Ren glanced back at him, her voice light. "What else? Am I supposed to be like I was before, making a huge spread of food every day, waiting for you until midnight until the dishes are cold, and I've developed stomach problems from hunger, only to receive a text saying, 'Not coming home tonight'?" Facing Lachlan's intense gaze, Ren's expression didn't change. She easily broke free from his grasp and went into the room to sleep. Lachlan stood frozen, his eyes dark as he stared at the closed door, a knot tightening in his chest. It felt like punching cotton. Maybe she's still just jealous and in a bad mood, he thought. I just need to sweet-talk her a bit more. He picked up his car keys and left. The moment he was out the door, Ren's phone rang. As soon as she answered, her best friend Melody Hughes's voice, filled with righteous indignation, crackled through the speaker like a firecracker. "Rennie, did you know Joselyn Rivers is back? Have you seen her social media? How could Lachlan do this? You two are childhood sweethearts. You were by his side through all his low points, and yet he got together with Joselyn after knowing her for just a month. Joselyn callously dumped him to go abroad, and he was devastated. He only got with you to get over his heartbreak. You've been by his side all these years, but the second she comes back, he's chasing after her again. How could he do this to you? Has he forgotten he just proposed to you? You two are about to get married?" Ren's continued silence nearly drove Melody mad with anger. She was about to say more when Ren let out a faint, calm smile. "Lachlan said he feels that since Joselyn has no family in the country, he has to be the one to take care of her." Even saying the words out loud felt ridiculous to her. Melody was incredulous. "And you believe that excuse?" "No, I don't." Ren gave a self-deprecating laugh. "See." The lie was so clumsy that even an outsider like Melody could see right through it, yet he thought he could fool her. Melody was taken aback. "Then you?" She couldn't bring herself to keep scolding him, afraid of upsetting Ren. After a moment of silence, Ren spoke. "Do you remember? I had a dream of traveling the world. Lachlan used to tell me that after we got married, he'd go with me. I waited all these years, but I've only recently realized some views are better enjoyed alone. He has his own scenery to look at. Her voice was incredibly light, as if she had let everything go. Melody was lost in her words for a moment before the belated shock hit her. What do you mean? You're planning to break up with Lachlan? Something like that, Ren smiled. But to be precise, I'm the one who doesn't want him anymore. The flight was booked for 2 weeks later. During that time, Ren was engrossed in planning her trip around the world. Lachlan, as if trying to make up for his guilt, started making breakfast every morning before leaving for work and coming home early to cook dinner for her. Flowers, jewelry, and all sorts of gifts arrived endlessly, almost rivaling the total number of gifts he'd given her in the entire previous year. He seemed to have transformed into the most attentive boyfriend, tirelessly driving Ren to and from work every day. Ren let him do it all. A heart that had grown completely cold couldn't be warmed by these small gestures. She had been disappointed too many times. That morning, Lachlan grabbed his car keys as usual, ready to drive Ren to work. When he noticed she wasn't following him, he was puzzled. Lachlan, I'm not going to work today. And you don't need to drive me anymore. I've quit my job. Why did you quit? Lachlan asked, disbelieving. Weren't you doing well at that job? Ren's expression was indifferent. I'm going to travel the world soon. My job doesn't allow for long leaves of absence, so I resigned. I'll find a new company later. Hearing the words, travel the world, Lachlan's expression froze. His reaction was strange. He didn't seem particularly happy. There's no rush for that. We can discuss it further. Ren looked at Lachlan's face, understanding his meaning perfectly. Although he had proposed to her recently, now that Joselyn was back, his resolve was likely wavering again. Seeing her bring up a trip around the world, he probably thought she was pressuring him into marriage. She muttered to herself with a self-mocking smile, "There's no need to discuss it. I'm not going with you." "What?" Lachlan's brow furrowed. He hadn't quite heard what she just said. As he was about to ask again, his phone vibrated in his pocket. It was Joselyn. Lachlan stepped aside, turning away from Ren to take the call. Ren couldn't hear what was said, but she saw him start walking anxiously towards the door, tossing a sentence over his shoulder. "If you've quit, you've quit. It's good to rest at home for a while. Rennie, something urgent came up at the office. I have to go." His car sped further and further away. A suspicion formed in Ren's mind. Not long after, she saw Joselyn's social media feed update. She clicked on the photo. It was Joselyn lying in a hospital bed with an IV drip, leaning weakly into a man's arms. The caption read, "I didn't know I was still so important in your heart." The shirt on the man in the photo was the exact one Lachlan had been wearing just moments ago. Even though only a sliver of his neck was visible, Ren recognized it instantly. She stared at her phone screen, a sarcastic smile pulling at her lips. So he was in such a hurry because Joselyn was sick. In the past, when Ren was sick, she had always pushed through it herself, buying her own medicine and going to the doctor alone. One time, her fever spiked to 104 degrees, making it difficult to even get out of bed. In that moment of extreme vulnerability, she had called him for help, but he had just thrown a line at her. "Rennie, just go to the hospital yourself. I'm busy at work, I don't have time to go with you." Ren closed her phone, no longer in the mood to look. It wasn't until 3 days later that Lachlan came home. When he saw Ren, an unconscious smile was still on his face. It seemed he and Joselyn had gotten along quite well these past few days. Ren acted as if she hadn't seen it, silently bending down to put on a pair of black high heels. Today, she had plans to meet up with friends for a farewell gathering. Seeing Ren with her exquisite makeup, curled hair, and a striking black and red strapless dress, Lachlan finally realized she was going out. He reached out and grabbed her. "You're going out." "Where to?" Ren didn't want to answer, so she changed the subject. "Where have you been these past few days? Why didn't you come home?" The smile on Lachlan's face vanished instantly. After a long pause, he said, "I had to go on a sudden business trip. I forgot to tell you." A business trip. Ren thought of the photos she'd seen on her phone of him taking care of Joselyn and could only laugh sardonically in her heart. She let out a soft meh and stood before the full-length mirror, adjusting her hair and dress. "Lachlan, you won't have to lie to me for much longer." Seeing that Ren wasn't pressing for details like she used to, Lachlan felt a strange sense of unease. The living room was cluttered with many suitcases. Lachlan frowned, trying to make small talk. What are all these suitcases for? The seasons are about to change. I'm getting organized so things are easier to find. She didn't tell him the truth. She had been packing her clothes for days. Her trip around the world would be long, so she planned to pack clothes for each season in different suitcases. The excuse was clearly not enough to convince Lachlan, and he was about to ask more questions. But Wren glanced at her phone. The time for her meeting was approaching, and she had no time for idle chat. Just then, Joselyn's social media feed updated again. She clicked on it and saw that Joselyn had posted a photo of herself drinking her sorrows away at a bar. Under the dim, ambiguous lighting, Joselyn's face was flushed, her gaze hazy as she stared into the camera, clutching a wine glass as if she were fragile and on the verge of shattering. Wren smiled, held the phone up to Lachlan, and interrupted the words he was about to speak. It looks like Joselyn is drinking at a bar. It's so late, it must be unsafe for a girl by herself. Aren't you going to check on her? The photo was magnified before his eyes. Lachlan's expression changed immediately. His eyes darkened, and his lips pressed into a thin, tight line, a look of anxiety and unease. But conscious of Wren in front of him, he forced himself to remain rational. I haven't been home for a few days. I'd rather spend more time with you. He said the words, but his eyes never left the photo. Wren gave a faint smile. It's okay. Didn't you say Joselyn has no family here and you need to take care of her? You can spend time with me whenever. You should go check on her now. Don't worry, I don't mind. Lachlan looked at Wren's smiling face, a sense of indescribable frustration welling up inside him. Although he had always wished for Wren to be more understanding, seeing her act this way lately filled him with a strange sense of panic. He wanted to ask why, but the image of Joselyn in the photo kept drilling into his mind. A girl alone in a bar, what if something happens? His concern for Joselyn won out. Lachlan looked at Wren with apologetic eyes. Rennie, I'll take her home and be right back to be with you. Watching his retreating back, Wren was completely unconcerned. She simply went out and hailed a cab. At the Nocturne bar, the moment Wren walked in, she saw a figure she couldn't be more familiar with: Joselyn Rivers. She hadn't expected that the place Melody and her friends had chosen was the same bar Joselyn was at. Joselyn was slumped over the bar, muttering, "Drink, give me a drink, I want more." She raised the empty glass in her hand, completely intoxicated. Lachlan's tall frame completely enveloped Joselyn. His face was dark, and a terrifying chill emanated from him as he pressed down on Joselyn's hand, snatching the glass from her. "Stop drinking, it's bad for you." Hearing the familiar voice, Joselyn instinctively looked up. Following the fresh scent of mint on Lachlan, she threw herself into his arms. Her eyes reddened as she nuzzled against his chest, her hands tightening around his waist. "Lachlan, I regret it. I regret leaving you for my career back then. I've never gotten over you all these years. Even when I was abroad, I was always thinking of you. Does our promise from back then still count? I know you've been waiting for me all these years, and Wren was just a placeholder. I'm back now, can we get back together?" Joselyn asked again and again. Hearing the woman he loved ask to reconcile, Lachlan's gaze lowered and he was visibly moved. But the image of Wren's face kept appearing in his mind, impossible to dismiss. Lachlan sighed softly. "Joselyn, I have a girlfriend now, I'm about to marry her." Although he said that, Joselyn didn't give up. She stood on her toes, wrapped her arms around his neck, and leaned in to kiss him. He didn't push her away. His hand on her waist tightened, the veins on his arm popping. It was as if he had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Wren stood outside the crowd not far away, witnessing the entire scene. The throbbing music filled the air, the crowd moving to its rhythm. Wren gave a self-mocking smile. Unable to watch any longer, she turned and left to find Melody and the others. The moment the soft lips touched his cheek, Lachlan saw Wren's figure flash past. His heart leaped. "Wren," Lachlan called out instinctively, hurriedly pushing Joselyn away. But she clung to him stubbornly. He had no choice but to support the drunken Joselyn and go after Wren. His heart pounded violently, urging him to go and explain. Lachlan chased after Wren's retreating figure, but his path was blocked by the throng of people. Finally, he managed to get near Wren's booth. "Cheers! This drink is a farewell to Wren. Congratulations on finally ditching Lachlan Cameron and leaving for good." When he arrived, he saw a group of women surrounding Ren, clinking glasses and saying their goodbyes. Hearing those words, Lachlan's mind went blank, the blood in his veins turning to ice. He rushed in front of Ren, his voice trembling. "Leaving? Where are you going?" Ren hadn't expected Lachlan to suddenly appear and was stunned for a moment. After a long pause, she twisted her wrist, breaking free from his grip. Her expression was perfectly calm, without a trace of panic. "These are my colleagues. I've resigned from my job, so isn't that a kind of leaving? Where else would I go?" Seeing the situation, Melody and the others quickly chimed in, nodding in agreement. "Yeah, Ren's resigning. We're really going to miss her." Hearing this, the tension and panic on Lachlan's face dissipated significantly. He didn't know any of Ren's friends, so he naturally didn't realize they were lying. However, while Ren had managed to get him off her back, Melody and the others had no intention of letting him go so easily. Melody looked the half-drunk Joselyn up and down, a contemptuous smirk on her lips. Her words were sharp. "So you're Rennie's boyfriend. Aren't you about to marry her? Why were you holding another woman just now?" Even though she knew Ren was going to break up with him, she couldn't help but speak up for her friend. Ren remained silent, showing no intention of explaining for Lachlan, letting Melody take the lead. Lachlan's face was a picture of embarrassment. "That's a friend of mine. She was drinking alone here, and I happened to run into her. I was worried, so I was just going to take her home. I wasn't holding her." "You weren't holding her. You just kissed her." A small smile played on Ren's lips, but she didn't point out the glaring hole in his explanation. Melody, however, didn't buy it. She clenched her fists in anger, but after a glance at Ren, she said nothing more. Seeing this, Lachlan gradually relaxed, feeling much more at ease. "Good, she's not angry. Rennie, drink a little less and go home early. Be safe. I'm going to take Joselyn home first." Ren paid him no mind, picking up her glass and continuing to chat with her friends. She didn't even notice when he left with Joselyn. It wasn't until the early hours of the morning that Lachlan returned home. The house was pitch black, and the moonlight streaming in made it feel cold and deserted. In the past, if he came home this late, Ren would have left a warm yellow light on for him, waiting on the sofa with the TV playing. But now, the living room was cold and empty, with no familiar figure in sight. Ren had changed so much recently. She no longer threw tantrums, demanding to know why he was still in contact with Joselyn, nor did she hysterically beg him to stop caring about her. She had become so much more understanding. But why did he find it so unsettling? He tugged at his tie in frustration, loosening it and tossing it onto the coat rack before grabbing a bottle of ice-cold water in an attempt to clear his head. The next day, to assuage the guilt in his heart, Lachlan did something unprecedented and called out to Ren. "Rennie, I haven't spent much time with you lately. Didn't you always want to go to the temple to pray for blessings? I happen to be free today. How about I go with you?" Ren swallowed a bite of toast. She was about to refuse, but suddenly thought of her parents. "I'm about to travel the world. This could be a good opportunity to get a good luck charm for them," so she nodded. But what Ren hadn't expected was to see a large group of familiar faces at the foot of the mountain where the temple was located. Lachlan's group of close friends, and Joselyn Rivers. Before she could say anything, one of Lachlan's friends spoke up impatiently. "Ren, what's with that look on your face? Don't be so small-minded and possessive. We're all friends, just hanging out together. You're not going to be so petty that you can't even tolerate us, are you?" Immediately after, Joselyn stepped forward, feigning kindness to smooth things over. "Don't say that. Today was supposed to be a date for Lachlan and Ren. We just showed up unannounced, so it's natural for her to be upset." Finally, Lachlan began to persuade her. "Rennie, I just sent a message in the group chat saying I was going to the temple. I didn't expect everyone to come. Since we ran into each other, let's just go together. Don't be so petty." Listening to the group's chorus of persuasion, Ren found it laughable. In the past, she had indeed loved Lachlan too much, which was why she cared so much about him and Joselyn. She cared about how he treated Joselyn differently, was pained by his love for Joselyn, and was jealous of everything involving him and Joselyn. But now, she didn't love Lachlan anymore. Why should she care about any of this? She pursed her lips. "I never said I disagreed. We're all friends. What's wrong with praying for blessings together?" Lachlan had been preparing to persuade Ren further if she refused, his words already rehearsed. But hearing her sudden agreement, he froze completely. Hasn't Ren been a little too understanding lately? Why didn't she care when he threw a welcome party for Joselyn, or when he went to pick up a drunk Joselyn, or even now, when Joselyn and a group of his friends crashed their date? Before he could figure it out, Joselyn walked up to him. "Since Ren agreed, Lachlan, let's head up the mountain together. I'm a bit weak, so you'll have to look after me." Hearing this, the thought in Lachlan's mind was unconsciously pushed aside, replaced by concern for Joselyn. He supported her. "Stay close to me, don't get hurt." Watching the intimate pair ahead of them, Ren paid no mind, as if she hadn't seen a thing, and started climbing by herself, until a cry of alarm reached her ears. She turned around to see Joselyn sitting on the ground, her face pale, her eyes red as she clutched the man in front of her, saying sweetly, "Lachlan, I twisted my ankle." Seeing Joselyn injured, Lachlan didn't stop to wonder how she could have fallen on flat ground while he was supporting her. Panic instantly filled his eyes. Forgetting his own position, he disregarded her half-hearted protests and swept her into his arms. "I'll take you to the hospital right now." But after taking just one step, his senses returned. He belatedly realized the inappropriateness of his actions and turned to look at Ren, his lips parting slightly, but he said nothing. After all, he had been the one to invite her today, only for a crowd to join them, and now he was about to abandon her for Joselyn. As he was struggling with what to say, Ren once again smiled understandingly. "Don't mind me, I can climb up by myself. The injured come first, you two go ahead." Joselyn was whimpering in his arms. Lachlan no longer had the mental energy to care about Ren's repeated strange behavior. His mind and eyes were completely filled with the person in his arms. He nodded and strode away. After they left, the group of friends also made excuses about not being able to climb and left one by one. Ren went up the mountain alone, piously prayed for her parents' well-being, got a pair of good luck charms, and came back down. It wasn't until evening that Lachlan returned. He had bought a strawberry cake and placed it in front of her. "Rennie, this is your favorite cake. Consider it an apology for what happened today. I was the one who took you to the temple, but I ended up leaving you alone halfway. It was my fault." Ren smiled faintly. "There's nothing to apologize for. She was injured and she's a girl. It's natural for you to take care of her." Having received her verbal forgiveness, Lachlan relaxed considerably, but he couldn't help but voice the unease in his heart. "Rennie, you've been much more understanding lately." Ren curled her lip. "Have I? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" Not expecting Ren to ask such a question, Lachlan was taken aback. After a long pause, he said, "It's very good just like this." "Very good. Is it because you can finally show your affection for Joselyn without restraint, without having to consider my feelings?" "I think it's good too," she smiled. "So from now on, I'll continue to be understanding. Understanding enough to watch you be good to Joselyn, understanding enough to watch you show your love for Joselyn, and finally, understanding enough to give you to her completely." The countdown to Ren's departure had begun. While Lachlan was busy taking care of the sprained ankle Joselyn, Ren finalized all her plans for her round-the-world trip. Just as she was about to pack her luggage, Lachlan pushed open the door and came back. "Rennie, I've booked a table at a couple's restaurant. Let's go out for dinner tonight." Perhaps because she had been so understanding lately, making things easy for him, he had specially booked a table at a romantic restaurant and initiated a date. Without waiting for Ren's answer, he pulled her into the car. In the restaurant, elegant, slow piano music flowed through the air. Ren's mind was filled with thoughts of her upcoming trip, and she couldn't help but feel a surge of anticipation. Seeing the smile that involuntarily appeared on her face, Lachlan assumed his surprise had hit the mark, and a small smile touched his own lips. They were halfway through their meal when a familiar person arrived. Joselyn Rivers walked in, her arm linked with a man in a silver-gray suit. The two sat at a table a short distance from Ren and Lachlan, chatting intimately and laughing as they shared their food. From the moment Joselyn stepped into the restaurant, Lachlan's entire focus was captivated by her. When he saw Joselyn stand up to wipe the corner of the other man's mouth, he couldn't hold back any longer. His grip on his knife and fork tightened, scraping harshly against the plate and creating a piercing sound. At the same time, a notification popped up on his phone. It was from Joselyn. "Lachlan, I've thought it through. You have Ren now, and I'm planning to start over. I wish you and Ren happiness." Seeing this message, A bone-chilling coldness radiated from Lachlan. The food on his plate no longer held any appeal. He stared fixedly in the distance. Finally, when Joselyn got up and headed toward the restroom, he shot to his feet, not forgetting to tell Ren he had to step out for a moment. Ren knew exactly what he was going to do. Not long after he left, she also got up and followed. Sure enough, as she rounded the corner, she saw Lachlan cornering Joselyn, pressing her against the wall, his dark eyes burning with a furious flame. That man is so ordinary. He's not good enough for you at all. Since when did you have such low standards? You have to break up with him, do you hear me? Joselyn could no longer hold back and threw her arms around him. Warm tears soaked his shirt, seeming to seep into his heart and spread in ripples. That man isn't an option, so what about you? I don't want anyone else, I only want you. Lachlan froze completely, pausing for a long time, his mind seemingly going through a painful struggle. He didn't answer, but in a way, his silence was the best answer. Ren forced a smile and turned to leave. She knew he loved Joselyn, but he couldn't bring himself to break up with her, all because she had been with him for so many years. Don't worry, Lachlan. This time, I'll be the one to leave. I won't make things difficult for anyone. The very next day, Joselyn deliberately came to their door with a thick stack of photos. Rennie, these are some guys my best friend introduced me to. Can you help me take a look and tell me what you think? As she spoke, she deliberately glanced at Lachlan. I broke up with the guy from yesterday. Someone said he wasn't right for me, but I've been single for so long, I really want to start dating again. Before she finished speaking, Lachlan's face had turned as black as the bottom of a pot. Ren gave a self-deprecating smile and randomly pointed to a few. These few look pretty good. Joselyn glanced at them and put on a satisfied expression. I think these ones are good too. I'll go out and meet them in the next few days. Hearing this, Lachlan's breathing quickened. But just as he was about to say something, Joselyn had already left their house. The two of them were alone again. As if trying to suppress the fire of jealousy in his heart, Lachlan suddenly hugged Ren tightly, resting his chin on her collarbone. The sound of his voice vibrated through her chest. Rennie, you can relax now. Joselyn is starting a new relationship. You don't have to be jealous anymore. Although Lachlan was comforting Ren, he was in a terrible mood. Ren could feel his lack of control at every moment. It was as if he was genuinely afraid that Joselyn would belong to someone else. Ren let out a small laugh and nodded slightly, saying nothing. On the day she decided to leave, Ren woke up very early and, contrary to her usual habits, made breakfast. A short while later, Lachlan also got up. Seeing Ren bustling about, he was a little surprised. Rennie, you're not working. Why are you up so early? Ren gave a vague reply and then asked him, what about you? Why are you up so early too? Isn't it the weekend? His expression was momentarily unnatural. After a long pause, he lied, I couldn't sleep. After saying that, he hastily ate a few bites of breakfast and then involuntarily stopped. His face was grim as he constantly checked his phone and looked at his watch, his anxiety plain to see. Ren understood. The reason he was so anxious was simply that Joselyn had just posted on her social media feed, saying she was heading out to meet a blind date. Sure enough, as the minutes ticked by, Lachlan couldn't sit still any longer. Halfway through his breakfast, he grabbed his coat and rushed out the door. Rennie, something came up at the office. I have to go. Ren leisurely took a sip of milk, not exposing his lie. Just as he was about to walk out the door, she suddenly called out to him. Goodbye, Lachlan Cameron. The abrupt farewell was a little strange. Lachlan glanced back at Ren, but he was in a hurry to stop Joselyn's date and didn't think much of it. He left without another look back. It wasn't until Lachlan's car disappeared from view that Ren called a moving company. She had already packed the luggage she was taking abroad. As for everything she was leaving behind in this house, she wanted none of it. Please help me take all this luggage to the dump and burn it all. She would burn this luggage, and with it, burn the 7 years of companionship, the 7 years of love she had given Lachlan. The luggage was moved out, load by load. Finally, the entire house was empty. Only traces of Lachlan remained. She smiled, turned on her heel, and left without a single look back. Lachlan, after I stopped loving you, I became as free as the wind. This time, I'm setting you free, and completely setting myself free the moment before the plane took off, the phone screen suddenly lit up. A call from Lachlan came through. Rennie, where did you go? Lachlan had barely gotten the words out before the call was disconnected. A flight attendant gently reminded the passengers to turn off their phones or switch them to airplane mode. Wren thought of Lachlan's accusatory tone and simply turned her phone off completely. Out of sight, out of mind. Her round-the-world trip was about to begin, and she didn't want her happy mood to be disturbed. She wanted to take even more beautiful photos and experience the customs and cultures of different countries. A dream she had been unable to fulfill in the past was finally within her grasp. It wasn't until the plane left the ground that Wren truly felt that sense of freedom. For all these years, she had been living for Lachlan. Now, she was finally going to live for herself. The moment before she turned off her phone, a scheduled text message was delivered to Lachlan's phone. "Lachlan, let's break up. I don't want you anymore. I'm giving you to Joselyn." The message appeared starkly before his eyes. Lachlan was stunned. Seeing this message, he should have been happy, but why couldn't he feel any joy at all? Wren had been like a shackle on him, imprisoning him, preventing him from getting back together with Joselyn. Now that Wren was finally letting him go, wasn't this what he had been waiting for so long? But why did his heart ache so much? He even felt a sense of panic and emptiness. For a moment, Lachlan felt as if something had completely disappeared, moving far away from him. "Impossible, impossible. How could Wren let go so easily?" Lachlan muttered in disbelief. "She must be scheming something, playing hard to get, right? She knew I went to find Joselyn today." He didn't say the last 3 words, but his heart was in turmoil. He had just ruined Joselyn's date, viciously humiliating her potential suitors. But when Joselyn had hugged him again, refusing to let go, she had said, "Lachlan, since you scared away my dates, doesn't that prove you haven't let me go? We still have feelings for each other. Can't we really get back together?" Lachlan couldn't remember what he had said. His mind was a mess, but he couldn't help but think of Wren back at home. In the end, he had run away. He only knew that he couldn't be with Joselyn behind Wren's back. They were about to get married. Lachlan fled in disarray. When he returned home, he found the house empty. All of Wren's things were gone, including those suitcases. He couldn't believe Wren had really just abandoned him and broken up with him. But everything in the house proved that she was serious. Lachlan reread the text message over and over, making sure he hadn't missed anything. The message Wren had sent was simply about breaking up, but he refused to believe it, repeatedly calling her number. Unsurprisingly, all he got was, "The number you have dialed is switched off." With a thud, the phone slipped from his hand and fell to the floor. Wren was really gone. She had really left him. With that thought, all of Wren's unusual behavior from the past few days finally made sense. No wonder Wren had been so understanding, so much so that she didn't care about anything, wasn't angry about anything. It turned out, she had been planning her departure all along. Lachlan let out a few bitter laughs. The once warm home had, at some point, become so cold and desolate. In the pitch-black house, it felt as though not a single ray of light could penetrate. Boundless loneliness threatened to swallow him whole. The phone on the floor lit up and went dark, over and over again. Joselyn had called an unknown number of times, but Lachlan suddenly had no desire to answer. He lay on the sofa, closed his eyes, but couldn't find a wink of sleep. It was only at this moment that he belatedly realized he had grown accustomed to Wren's presence. As long as Wren was by his side, it seemed that no matter what, there was a sense of peace. He didn't understand why Wren had suddenly decided to give up and break up. They had been together for so many years, on the verge of getting married. Why did she let go now? In Lachlan's mind, Wren was already his wife. He just hadn't been able to completely let go of Joselyn. But time was a great healer. It had taken him 5 years to start moving on from Joselyn. For them to become complete strangers again was just a matter of time. Wren had waited for so many years. Why couldn't she wait just a little longer at this crucial juncture? Lachlan remembered the cute little girl from next door, clutching a bunny in a wedding dress, insisting on putting the bunny's veil on her own head, clamoring to be his bride. When exactly did Wren choose to give up? Lachlan couldn't figure it out. Logically, he should have been happy to finally shake off Wren, that clingy leech. According to Wren's wishes, he should be getting back together with Joselyn. But for some reason, he felt a faint reluctance to reconcile with Joselyn. Now, he only saw her as a friend, with at most some lingering unwillingness to let go. But as for getting back together, it seemed they could never go back to how things were. The moment she had abandoned him, chosen to break up and leave the country, had left too deep a scar on him. Even after several years, Lachlan still remembered it clearly. But now, with Wren's departure, everything felt like it was repeating, just like 5 years ago. He couldn't understand why. He felt like he was making the same mistake over and over again. Lachlan's mind was a mess. He couldn't make sense of his own feelings. The sun gradually rose, and a new day began. He hadn't slept all night. His eyes were shot with blood-red veins. His head throbbed with a dull pain. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door, rapid and urgent. He frowned and went to open it. Surprise, a shower of confetti exploded before his eyes. Chad Jenkins led a group of people in, carrying all sorts of food and even wheeling in a cake. The last to enter was Joselyn, dressed in a white dress, looking innocent and charming. She smiled shyly, her fingers clutching the hem of her skirt, and joined the others in saying to Lachlan, "Happy Singles Day." Chad Jenkins slung an arm over Lachlan's shoulder, leading him in front of Joselyn and giving him a small push. "Big C, you're finally free of that leech, Wren. We brought Joselyn over to celebrate you being single again. We're good bros, right?" He smelled slightly of alcohol, and his words were unfiltered. Ignoring Lachlan's silence, he even shouted, "Big C, Wren's gone, so when are you and Joselyn getting back together? I wonder if we'll get to drink to your wedding." Lachlan's face grew darker and darker, almost black enough to drip ink. "Enough, get out, who let you in?" He roared, his voice as cold as ice. In an instant, everyone fell silent. Only the crystal ball next to the cake continued to play its cheerful music. Everyone looked at each other, their expressions grim, unsure if they should speak or what they should say. It was Joselyn who first stepped forward to smooth things over and ease the tension. "Lachlan, they didn't mean any harm. It's my fault for bringing them here to cause a scene." As she spoke, she shot a glare at Chad Jenkins, signaling for them to hurry up and leave with their things so as not to cross Lachlan. But although the people left, the remnants of the chaotic confetti still littered the floor. It looked messy and was somewhat upsetting. Lachlan pressed his temples, trying to calm his tone. He shouldn't have taken his frustration out on them. Finally, after he had managed to calm down, he asked stiffly, How did you all know that Wren and I broke up?" He had thought it was just something Wren had said in a fit of pique, that she was probably somewhere waiting for him to come and coax her. But when Joselyn held her phone in front of him, he almost couldn't stand. On the phone screen was Wren's social media feed. It was a picture of clouds from an airplane window, with the caption, "Broke up. I'm heading towards a brand new life. Wish me well." It had only been posted for an hour, but had already garnered hundreds of likes. Wren had announced the breakup to everyone, clearly wanting to draw a definitive line between herself and Lachlan. Just then, Lachlan's phone began to ring and buzz with calls and messages. It was his parents, Theodore and Alina Cameron. He answered with a frown and was immediately berated by his mother. "Lachlan, what on earth did you do to Rennie? Weren't you two getting married? How did you end up breaking up? Let me tell you right now, the only daughter-in-law I will ever recognize is Rennie. I don't care what you did wrong, and I don't care how you do it, but you'd better go and win Rennie back right now." Lachlan had the call on speaker. Hearing this, Joselyn's face turned deathly pale, and she could barely maintain her smile. However, he didn't see anything wrong with it. His parents had said such things countless times. The concept of Wren being his wife was already deeply ingrained in his mind. Before Lachlan could explain to his mother, she hung up, seemingly furious. He stared at his phone, only able to hope that his mother could help him win Wren back. Joselyn stood to the side, looking as if she might collapse at any moment. She managed to speak. "Lachlan, you've already broken up with Wren, and you don't want me to start a new relationship. Tell me, what are you really thinking? Have we really come this far, and we still can't get back together? There are no more obstacles between us." Her fair, slender fingers clutched the hem of Lachlan's shirt, stubbornly refusing to let go. Lachlan was silent for a long time before forcefully prying Joselyn's fingers away. "We are just friends now." Friends? Friends? Joselyn was about to be driven mad by those two words. She had thought she could effortlessly hold Lachlan's heart in her hand, that she could drive Wren away. But she never expected that even at this stage, he would still use the word friends. They had been an intimate couple before. She had only been gone for a short time. Why had things turned out this way? Joselyn couldn't understand, nor did she want to. She moved to kiss Lachlan, desperate to prove that the man in front of her still had her in his heart, that he still loved her. But this time, Lachlan did the unthinkable and pushed her away. Lachlan. Joselyn barely managed to steady herself, her voice full of confusion. He had never refused her before, but now, Lachlan didn't know what he was thinking either. He only knew that if he let Joselyn kiss him again, he might never have the chance to win Ren back. He had already chosen to let go of Joselyn. He couldn't lose Ren again. He couldn't live without Ren. Once this thought solidified, Lachlan suddenly felt much more determined. You should go. We're just friends, let's not cross that line. Ren will get jealous and won't be happy. With that, he grabbed Joselyn's hand, escorted her out the door, and then drove off himself. Mr. Wang, help me find out where Ren went. Lachlan raced to the airport. Ren had only just left. If he hurried, he could still find her. She was so soft-hearted. In the past, whenever she was angry or jealous, all it took was a little coaxing from him, and she would be fine. He wasn't worried about being unable to win her over. Not long after, his assistant, Mr. Wang, found the information, but his voice trembled as he reported back. Mr. Cameron, Miss Scott bought tickets to 3 different countries simultaneously. Country A, Country C, and Country F. The departure times are all very close, so it's unclear which country she actually went to. Thump. Lachlan slammed his fist into the seat beside him in anger. He had no choice but to first find those colleagues of Ren's to ask. The car stopped in front of the building where Ren used to work. Lachlan went upstairs and identified himself at the front desk. I'm Lachlan Cameron, CEO of the Cameron Group. I'd like to meet with Ren Scott's former colleagues and perhaps discuss a partnership. Ren had been a photographer for this geography magazine and had gotten along well with her colleagues. Even a geography magazine needed investors and partnerships. The chief editor, Mr. Lee, happily welcomed Lachlan in and pointed to a desk. That was Ren's old workstation. The people next to it were her colleagues. Please go ahead. The colleagues were all unfamiliar faces. Lachlan was certain he had never seen them before. They were completely different from the group of people in the booth at the Nocturne bar that night. Are these all of them? Lachlan's question confused the chief editor, who answered hesitantly, Yes, I think so. If I remember correctly, it was just these few. Lachlan's brow furrowed tightly. Suppressing his anger, he left the company. He threw out a parting line, My assistant will discuss the partnership with you. In the elevator, he replayed the events of that day in his mind. It was only then that he realized Ren had been deceiving him. Even back then, she had been planning to leave all along, and had even conspired with her friends to lie to him. If he had known then, perhaps Ren would never have left. Suppressing the frustration in his heart, Lachlan quickly had someone investigate Ren's close friends. A moment later, the information was sent to his phone. Looking at the familiar photos, he didn't know whether to be angry or to laugh. After looking for a long time, he finally locked onto Melody Hughes, at the Hughes residence. Emanating a cold fury, Lachlan cornered Melody at her front door. Melody Hughes, where did Ren go? You know, don't you? Tell me now. He gripped her shoulders tightly, preventing her from escaping. Ha, Melody sneered, then swung her hand and slapped Lachlan hard across the face. What right do you have to ask where Rennie went? Isn't Mr. Cameron a very busy man? Busy being a good Samaritan, helping his good friend Joselyn Rivers, where would you find the time to care about your fiancé, Ren? Her tone was sarcastic, and she especially emphasized the words, good friend. With Ren gone, Melody could finally vent her anger and dissatisfaction with Lachlan. Seeing that he still hadn't realized his mistakes and was acting as if he'd done nothing wrong, Melody's anger flared even more. What kind of ex-couple can truly be good friends after a breakup? Either they never really broke up or they were never in love. Which one are you and Joselyn? Her words were sharp and hit their mark, but she didn't give Lachlan a chance to answer. I'll tell you, you and Joselyn are the first kind. You never truly let her go, but you couldn't bear to part with Ren, who was always so good to you. Lachlan Cameron, your disgusting Melody practically pointed a finger at his nose as she berated him. As if that wasn't enough, she continued. Lachlan, if you truly loved Rennie, you wouldn't be entangled with Joselyn. Calling her a friend is just an excuse to satisfy your own ego. And if you really couldn't let go of Joselyn, then why did you accept Rennie's confession instead of just rejecting her outright and crushing her hopes completely? Admit it. You're just indecisive. You want it all. Her every word was a deafening blow. Lachlan lowered his head, letting her scold him. Melody's words echoed in his mind, and the chaotic thoughts in his head gradually became clear. After a long while, Lachlan finally understood. He pulled his lips into a bitter, ugly smile. Yes, you're right, it was my fault. I didn't see my own heart clearly, and I hurt Rennie again and again. That's why she left me. This time, he truly understood. His feelings for Joselyn had long since eroded with time. Now, all that remained were 3 parts obsession and 7 parts unwillingness to let go. To say he had completely moved on would be a lie. After all, he had once loved Joselyn so deeply. How could he just let her go completely? His subconscious was constantly telling him that he didn't want to see other men around Joselyn. That possessiveness was still at play. But he could never let go of Ren. It was only a piece of paper that was missing. In his heart and in the eyes of both their families, Ren was already his wife. This was a settled matter, not open to change. After figuring out his own heart, Lachlan said to Melody with conviction, "I will let go of Joselyn, but I will not let go of Ren. If you don't tell me where Ren went, I have a million ways to find out." It's just a matter of time. Seeing the determination on his face, Melody couldn't help but laugh. Even I could guess where Rennie's first stop would be. You've known her for so many years and you can't figure it out? Go ahead and search. I'm not telling you the answer. With that, she lost her mood for shopping and turned to go back inside. First stop, Lachlan murmured these 2 words, countless memories replaying in his mind. It was then he remembered that, when he had promised to travel the world with Ren, she had told him which places she wanted to go. Country A was their first choice. What's more, he had once accidentally glimpsed Ren's travel guide, and the first page was about the rock formations park in Country A. With this realization, Lachlan instantly had a direction. He immediately asked Mr. Wang to book the next available flight. He didn't even have time to pack, rushing straight to the airport. As soon as he arrived, his phone started ringing incessantly. Lachlan frowned and answered Joselyn's call. "What is it?" His tone was extremely impatient, laced with anxiety. Joselyn on the other end was stunned for a moment, as if she hadn't expected him to speak to her in such a tone. She bit her lip and said, feigning magnanimity, "Lachlan, I know you haven't let go of Ren. Go find her. I've met a nice new guy, a new star in the capital's high society named Ethan Chin. Maybe we'll be together soon. When you and Ren get back together, I'll bring him to meet you." Joselyn forced a lighthearted laugh, sniffing and wiping away a tear. If this had been before, Lachlan might have chosen to stay. But this time, he had no desire to stay and see Joselyn. He heard his own voice, incredibly calm. "Good, go meet him then. I'm busy, I have to go." Beep, beep, beep. The merciless sound of the disconnected call was piercing. Joselyn, furious, threw her phone on the ground. It always worked before. Why didn't he react this time? Her chest heaved with anger. The trick that had been foolproof before had suddenly failed. Joselyn was in a panic. She posted several times on her social media feed, but there was no reaction from Lachlan. Had he really decided to let her go for Ren? Joselyn couldn't accept this possibility. In her eyes, Lachlan was a prize she had already won. He just happened to belong to Ren for a short while. With this thought, Joselyn quickly called Lachlan's friends, trying to find out where he had gone. Lachlan's sudden departure abroad surprised Chad Jenkins and the others. "Joselyn, don't worry, don't panic. I'll go ask around and check for you." Not long after, when Joselyn saw Lachlan's flight information, she was so nervous her nails were practically digging into her palms. He was going to City S in Country A, the very city she had been in. When she went abroad, she wanted to follow him. But she was afraid that what she had done abroad would be discovered. After much thought, Joselyn decided to go after him anyway. She thought, "I'm not Vivian from Country A anymore, I'm just Joselyn Rivers. I won't be found out." She couldn't lose Lachlan again. City S, Country A. The plane had just landed, and Lachlan suddenly felt a sense of bewilderment. It had been 3 or 4 days. Would Ren still be near the Rock Formations Park? Lachlan didn't know. He could only guess where Ren's first stop would be. Where would she go after that? He had scoured the world map but couldn't guess. Rock Formations Park. Lachlan wandered around for 2 full days, seeing all the surrounding scenery, but he never saw any sign of Ren. She loves taking pictures so much, and the scenery here is so beautiful. She would probably stay for a few more days, right? he tried to deceive himself. But the more he searched, the more desperate he became. Trying to find a needle in a haystack, in an unfamiliar place, was incredibly difficult. He had tried calling Ren's number countless times, but it never went through. Walking alone on the streets of a foreign country, Lachlan felt extremely lonely. He tried to walk the paths Ren might have walked, but he couldn't experience the same joy he felt when she was by his side. She used to always be around him, chattering away. In her eyes, even the most ordinary scenery seemed unique and beautiful. Through her descriptions, he had felt the beautiful world through her eyes. But now, looking at these same sights alone, he found them incredibly dull and tasteless. He realized it wasn't that the scenery was so beautiful, but that the person he was with had eyes full of vibrant color. Suddenly, as Lachlan rounded a corner, he thought he saw Ren holding a camera. For a moment, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. But the next second, as he got closer, he could even hear her voice. Overcome with excitement, Lachlan rushed forward, but a hand grabbed his arm. "Lachlan, I'm here to keep you company." Surprise, Joselyn appeared behind him, a bright smile on her face. Lachlan turned his head impatiently, shaking off her hands. He looked at her face and said coldly, "What are you doing here? Don't you have a date to go on?" Seeing Ren's figure disappearing into the distance, he grew anxious and shoved Joselyn aside. "Ren," he recklessly shouted at the familiar back, but the distance was too great. Ren didn't hear Lachlan's voice at all, and even if she had no intention of responding. Joselyn glared at the distant Ren in her mind, then shamelessly blocked Lachlan's path, teasing him with a smile. "Lachlan, are you confused? I don't see Ren anywhere." Hearing this, Lachlan couldn't help but pause and think, was it really a hallucination? Did I see wrong? But can a hallucination be this real? Before he could figure it out, Joselyn spoke again. "I know you can't let her go, and I've come to terms with it. How about I help you find her? 2 heads are better than 1. She said this, feigning thoughtfulness and generosity, and even offered him a direction. "Lachlan, do you think Ren's parents know she's traveling the world? She would probably chat with her uncle and auntie, right? Of course, Robert and Helen Scott must know where Ren when a spark of light ignited in Lachlan's dark eyes. "Thank you so much, Joselyn." He solemnly grabbed Joselyn's hand to thank her. There was not a trace of any extra amorous feeling in his touch. Joselyn suddenly had a bad feeling, as if things were developing in a direction she hadn't anticipated. Back at the hotel, Lachlan immediately called Ren's parents. "Uncle Scott, Auntie Helen, do you know where Rennie went? I know I was wrong. I've done so many things to let her down. I want to ask for her forgiveness now. Please help me." Ren's parents had watched Lachlan grow up, but when it came to their own daughter, they evaded the question. They hemmed and hawed, but didn't provide any useful information. "Lachlan, it's not that your uncle and I don't want to help you, but Rennie specifically told us that she doesn't want you to find her, and she doesn't want to forgive you. She said she has moved on from this relationship, so maybe you should too." The sentence was left unfinished, but Lachlan understood what they meant. For even Ren's parents to say, this proved how determined she was to leave him. But Ren leaving his side felt like a piece of his own flesh being torn away. How could he bear such pain? He sat on the bed, looking out at the city lights beginning to glow beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, his heart completely empty. Knock, knock. Joselyn knocked on his door. Lachlan, his face cold, opened the door to see her in a bathrobe, her hair still damp, pushing a small food cart. "You don't need to bring me this. The hotel staff will deliver it." Joselyn's movements froze for a moment, then she managed a smile. "You still have to eat. I was just worried you'd forget while you were busy." As she spoke, she thoughtfully arranged the food from the cart onto the table. The white skin beneath her bathrobe was tantalizingly exposed. But Lachlan's brow furrowed into a deep V, enough get out. He was not an inexperienced teenager, nor was he a fool. If he couldn't see what Joselyn was trying to do, he would be truly stupid. Lachlan looked at Joselyn with disappointment, wondering when she had become this person. The image of the innocent girl from the past was gone, and any remaining beautiful impression of her in his heart was shattered. The more she chased after him, the more he lost interest. The blind date trick had lost its effect after being used a few times. Joselyn had no other choice but to throw away all her pride like this. The longer she stayed in City S, the more panicked she became. She was afraid her past would be discovered. Even more, she was afraid that Lachlan would chase after Ren and completely forget about her. He was the best man she could possibly get her hands on right now. Joselyn was on the verge of tears, her eyes shimmering as she stood in the doorway, using her elbow to block the door, looking utterly wronged. She lifted her chin, stubbornly refusing to leave, but her voice was choked with sobs. Lachlan Cameron, do I have to say it plainly? I'm pursuing you again. There are no obstacles between us. You clearly still have feelings for me. Why won't you just admit it? With that, she rushed through the door, pressing her cheek against Lachlan's chest and gripping the back of his shirt. Lachlan, forget Ren. Let's get back together and rekindle our love, okay? Lachlan lowered his eyes and looked at her tear-filled face. For some reason, he no longer felt the heart-fluttering excitement of the past. Perhaps what is too easily obtained is too easily tired of, or perhaps he had already moved on from her. He pried Joselyn's fingers off one by one, his voice calm. Let go. I'll have someone send you back. Whether you go on dates or stay single, it has nothing to do with me from now on. This sentence sent Joselyn plunging into an ice cellar. She shivered from the cold in utter disbelief. How could this be? I've thrown myself at him. Why is Lachlan still so cold? Joselyn's mind raced. In a last-ditch effort, she pressed the button on a small sample of aphrodisiac perfume in her pocket. Smelling the familiar scent, she waited for it to take effect. The strong fragrance gradually spread. Lachlan instinctively frowned, taking a couple of deep sniffs, as if trying to locate the source of the scent. However, the perfume worked quickly. He could clearly feel his blood begin to heat up, his breathing growing heavier. What did you do to me? Lachlan quickly realized something was wrong. He grabbed Joselyn's neck with both hands, his pupils constricting as he roared. Joselyn, also affected by the drug, felt her vision start to blur. Her hands began to wander over his body, fumbling with his clothes, seemingly unaware of the life-threatening danger she was in. Lachlan, I'm so hot, I feel so awful. Joselyn's voice was fragmented, her sobs and tears falling onto Lachlan's hand. The cool sensation felt like it dropped into his heart, and he snapped back to his senses. He grabbed Joselyn by the collar and threw her out of the room. With a slam, the door shut. Lachlan gasped for air, quickly double-locking the door and biting his tongue to keep himself lucid. He was certain he had heard the sound of breaking glass. It was the sound Joselyn made when she hit the ground. Ha, Lachlan sneered. To think you'd one day try to pull a stunt like this on me? If this had been the past, he might have felt a shred of pity for Joselyn, but now all he felt was hatred. He detested being manipulated. Lachlan called for a doctor and had his men drag Joselyn away. He instructed them to draw her blood, collect evidence, and then dump her on the street. She likes drugging people and seducing men, doesn't she? Well, let her seduce to her heart's content. He was so furious his eyes were bloodshot, and he ground out the words through clenched teeth. Just from Joselyn's practiced moves, it was clear she had done this sort of thing many times before. Otherwise, how could a simple, innocent girl get her hands on that kind of perfume? Lachlan couldn't think of a single reasonable explanation. After the doctor examined him, he was given an injection. The heat in his body gradually subsided, but his suspicions about Joselyn didn't dissipate in the slightest. He immediately called a friend in City S. Hey, I need you to look into what Joselyn Rivers has been up to these past few years. He then sent over all of Joselyn's personal information. Joselyn had gone abroad 5 years ago for her studies, so there would naturally be a record of her personal information. However, his friend searched for a long time before asking doubtfully, Big C, are you sure a person like that was studying in Country A 5 years ago? I've checked all the Chinese international students in Country A over the past 5 years, and there's no Joselyn Rivers. What did you say? A thunderclap exploded in Lachlan's mind, as if something had completely shattered. If his friend was right, then Joselyn had been lying to him for the past 5 years she hadn't studied abroad. So what was she really doing overseas? A very bad feeling suddenly rose in his heart. Just then, his friend exclaimed in shock, then spoke with a trembling voice. Big C, you need to prepare yourself. What I'm about to say might completely shatter your perception of Joselyn Rivers. Lachlan grunted, signaling for him to continue. Joselyn left the country with a rich second-generation guy named Zhu Lei. He claimed he was going to marry her and paid for her to go to school. Joselyn enrolled under the name Vivian, but she got entangled with a politician's son named Keller. When the rich guy found out about their affair, he swore to make her suffer. He drugged her and sent her to other men's beds. After that, she used the drugs to hook up with more and more men, and in the end, she was tormented and abandoned by those playboys. She couldn't make it abroad anymore, so she had no choice but to come back to you. The friend briefly summarized everything that had happened to Joselyn abroad. But Lachlan was practically boiling with rage. It was only then that he belatedly remembered that Joselyn seemed to be entangled with his friends as well. In the past, his friends would occasionally side with Ren and express some sympathy for her. But ever since Joselyn appeared, they always defended her, especially Chad Jenkins. At this thought, Lachlan's fists clenched so tightly he wished he could slice the deceitful Joselyn into 1,000 pieces. He couldn't imagine it. He had disregarded the time difference of several hours to call her late at night. But what was she busy with then? Was she in some other man's bed? The thought made Lachlan even hate his past self. The distant white moonlight of his past had completely turned into a speck of dirt on the ground. He immediately informed all his friends and subordinates that no one was to help Joselyn. She was to be left to fend for herself. He even made public everything Joselyn had done abroad. Anyone who wanted to help Joselyn would have to consider if it was worth it if they wanted to make an enemy of the Cameron group. In fact, Lachlan didn't even need to lift a finger. Someone else would naturally take care of Joselyn. Lachlan's friend even benevolently gave things a little push. He informed the rich guy, Zhu Li, of Joselyn's whereabouts in City S. The streets of City S weren't always safe. At night, a young woman in a disheveled bathrobe, stumbling unsteadily down the street, certainly attracted a lot of attention. Joselyn carelessly twisted her ankle and fell to the ground. Several pairs of greasy, disgusting eyes stared at her, some even looking ready to make a move. Just then, light footsteps approached, humming a song familiar to Joselyn. She instinctively cowered, but Zhu Li had no intention of letting her go. He grabbed her by the hair and dragged her into a car. Ren heard about Joselyn again a week later. By then, she had traveled all the way to the southern tip of Country Sea. She learned the news when Melody called her. "Rennie, even after what happened to Joselyn, are you still going to forgive Lachlan?" Melody asked tentatively, afraid that Ren would fall for Lachlan all over again. Ren laughed freely, holding up her phone to share the beautiful waterfall scenery with Melody. "Mel, don't worry, I'm very happy right now. Look, this is a friend I made on the road." A sunny and cute-looking Chinese guy made a peace sign and popped into the frame. "Hi there," Reese Stone greeted with a smile, his puppy dog eyes sparkling. His skin wasn't overly fair but a healthy, sun-kissed tan. Standing behind Ren, his frame could almost completely envelop hers, giving off a strong sense of security. Reese also had a camera slung over his shoulder and a large black travel backpack on his back. It was clear they shared the same hobby. Seeing Reese, Melody felt an inexplicable sense of relief. She thought now that Ren had someone else in her life, she probably wouldn't be so foolish as to go back to Lachlan. Ren hung up the phone. What happened to Joselyn left no trace on her heart. Since she had chosen to leave, everything related to Lachlan was no longer her business. She had thought that after she left, they would quickly get back together. She just hadn't expected things to turn out this way. Ren suddenly remembered hearing Lachlan call her name in City S. She had deliberately not turned back. She had no desire to see him again. They were over. There was no looking back. However, Ren didn't expect that because of this call with Melody, Lachlan, by monitoring Melody's phone, had saved a recording of their video chat. Seeing the happily smiling Ren in the video, Lachlan was so angry he almost crushed the phone in his hand. "Such an eyesore," he ground out through clenched teeth. In his search for Ren, he hadn't had a good night's sleep for who knows how many days. He was used to having Ren around. After she left, he could barely sleep through the night. Even when he took medication to sleep, he would often wake up startled from a dream. He would frequently hallucinate, thinking Ren was still by his side. But when he actually went to look or touch, the hallucination would vanish. Now he finally had a clue. Lachlan stared intently at Ren in the video, completely ignoring Reese beside her. By comparing the waterfall scenery with photos from all over the world and noting the thick clothes they were wearing, he finally pinpointed Ren's location. This time, he couldn't be a step too late. Lachlan immediately booked a flight to Country C, rushing to where Wren was. Finally, with almost no time to rest, he rushed to the guest house where Wren was staying. Wren, he stood beneath the small villa, shouting her name several times, not caring if he was disturbing the peace. Suddenly, the door opened, but the person who answered was not Wren, but Reese from the video. He was wearing a bathrobe and slippers and was rubbing his hair with a towel. "Excuse me, can I help you? Are you here for Wren?" Reese said this very naturally. But Lachlan, his eyes red with anger, threw down his luggage and lunged at Reese with his fist. "Who are you? What right do you have to call her that? And what are you doing in her guest house dressed like that? What happened between you two?" However, Reese was well trained. Though he looked sunny and cute, he was actually a retired Special Forces soldier. Reese easily dodged Lachlan's punch, grabbed his hand, and with a deft twist, pinned his arm and back. "I'm a friend of Wren's. Attacking people isn't a very polite thing to do." Reese's eyes narrowed slightly, his cute face looking unusually serious. He sized up Lachlan, wary that he might be some kind of ill-intentioned person. Although Lachlan exercised regularly, his skills were no match for someone like Reese, who had real-world combat experience. "Hiss!" Lachlan sucked in a sharp breath, gritting his teeth and trying to resist. At that moment, Reese simply dislocated Lachlan's right arm. As if showing off his prize, he dragged Lachlan in front of Wren and asked curiously, "Rennie, do you know this person? He tried to hit me, but I subdued him." Wren put down her spatula and frowned at Lachlan. "What are you doing here?" Lachlan endured the pain, looked up at Wren's familiar face, and almost couldn't hold back the tears welling in his eyes. "Rennie," he murmured. The familiar aroma of cooking filled his nostrils. Though he was in a foreign country, he felt as if he had come home. He realized that wherever Wren was, that was the home that brought him the most peace. "Rennie, I know I was wrong. I came to apologize," Lachlan said sincerely. He then turned his head, gave Reese a deep look, and said with a cold face, "I know, Rennie. Can you let me go now?" Wren gave Reese a look, and he reluctantly released Lachlan. But his eyes remained fixed on Lachlan, constantly on alert, ready to subdue him again. Lachlan gritted his teeth and forcefully twisted his right arm back into place with his left hand. This kind of pain was nothing to him. But to make Wren feel sorry for him, he deliberately bit his lip until it bled and let out a soft gasp. However, Wren's expression remained unchanged. She and Lachlan had grown up together. She knew him very well. Now that she had completely sobered up to him, no amount of pain Lachlan displayed could make her feel sorry for him anymore. The foolish Wren who used to chase after Lachlan, who loved him, was long gone. He was the one who had forced that Wren to disappear. Wren looked at Lachlan with a blank expression and said flatly, "Stop pretending. It's pathetic." For a moment, Lachlan was embarrassed. Just as he was about to speak, Wren cut him off again. "Stop. You don't need to apologize either. I don't want to forgive you. We've already broken up. Whatever debts were left in that relationship, it's all in the past." Hearing this, Lachlan was momentarily in disbelief. He had never imagined that Wren would one day say such heartless words to him. Lachlan gave a bitter smile, forcing a cheerful expression as he said, feigning nonchalance, "Rennie, a one-sided breakup doesn't count. I didn't agree, so we haven't broken up." He stubbornly continued, "We're engaged. I proposed to you. My parents are already preparing the wedding. As soon as you say yes, we can go back and get married. After that, whether you want to continue traveling the world or stay in the country, I'll be with you. Didn't we say it? We would travel the world together, see different sights, and document every little moment of our relationship." Wren couldn't listen anymore and mercilessly shattered his fantasy. "Lachlan, stop being childish. I don't love you anymore, and I've broken up with you. I've already told Uncle and Auntie Cameron about canceling the wedding. My parents know too. Stop making a scene." Her voice was extremely flat, even laced with a hint of impatience. This tone nearly drove Lachlan mad. He stumbled back a few steps, shaking his head incessantly. "Rennie, stop lying to me. Don't throw a tantrum. We didn't break up. We're still together." Desperate tears blurred Lachlan's vision. He refused to give up, grabbing Wren's hand and trying to pull her into his arms, lowering his head to kiss her face. Warm tears silently streamed down, dripping onto the back of her hand. Wren instinctively flinched, pressing her hand against Lachlan's chest. "Don't touch me." Lachlan's kiss hadn't even landed before her icy tone froze him. Reese's broad hand clamped down on Lachlan's shoulder, forcefully separating him from Ren. "Ren told you not to touch her." In this situation, the smile on Reese's face completely vanished, replaced by a stern expression. He stood in front of Ren, preventing Lachlan from getting any closer. With the tall, broad figure shielding her, Ren felt a great sense of security and didn't hesitate to hide behind Reese. Seeing this, Lachlan's eyes practically bulged with fury. His face turned ashen, his voice chillingly cold. "Ren, did you give me up for a guy like this? Is he better to you than I was? Or are you still throwing a fit, still holding a grudge about Joselyn, and deliberately using him to spite me?" Lachlan didn't know if he was questioning Ren or just deceiving himself. As he said these words, his throat felt dry. "Ren, I've completely let go of Joselyn. I've seen her true colors and taught her a lesson. It was all just a misunderstanding. The only person in my heart is you. If you're still worried, let's get married, okay?" Hearing this, Ren felt a surge of anger. She could tolerate people talking about her, but she couldn't tolerate Lachlan talking about her friend like that and slandering her relationship with Reese. Ren scoffed, looking at Lachlan with disappointment. "I never thought you'd think of me and Reese that way. Just because you and Joselyn had an ambiguous relationship, does that mean you can assume the worst of us? We are just friends right now. Reese is a good person, and this has nothing to do with you or Joselyn," she shouted with great conviction. "Lachlan Cameron, the person who truly disappointed me wasn't Joselyn, it was you. In the past, I could overlook your history with her, as long as you had eyes for me and were willing to be devoted to me. That was enough. But you weren't. While you were in a relationship with me, you never let go of Joselyn, yet you didn't want to break up with me either. You're so greedy, Lachlan." After saying this, Ren felt as if all her strength had been drained, leaving her exceptionally vulnerable. She wasn't one to lay all her thoughts bare. Most of the time, she swallowed her grievances and frustrations alone. But just when she had finally let go, Lachlan came back. How laughable. Ren didn't know if she was mocking Lachlan or herself. She closed her eyes in utter disappointment. When she opened them again, only cold indifference remained. "Lachlan, I'm tired. Stop looking for me." With that, Reese, ignoring Lachlan's reaction, forcefully pushed him out and shut the door. Ren's words echoed in his ears like claps of thunder. The look of utter disappointment in her eyes was deeply etched in his mind. Lachlan felt utterly defeated. The person who had always chased after him, who had said she would never leave, had finally drifted further and further away. He knew with absolute certainty that he had completely and utterly lost Ren. Lachlan leaned against the door, unwilling to leave. A torrent of belated love surged through him, making it almost impossible to pull himself away. He knew he had made far too many mistakes, but Ren hadn't given him a single chance to redeem himself. Why did one mistake lead her to pass a death sentence on him? If Ren could have heard his thoughts at that moment, she would have told him that it wasn't just one mistake, one disappointment. It was an accumulation of his faults that had reached its limit. When too much disappointment has been stored up, a shattered heart can never be pieced back together. But Lachlan hadn't figured that out. A heavy downpour began, drenching him completely. He wasn't dressed warmly enough. The local climate was cold, especially at night and during rainy weather. The damp cold seeped into his bones, freezing him to the core. Lachlan shivered uncontrollably, his lips trembling. "Rennie, Rennie?" He murmured her name over and over, hoping that Ren would soften, open the door, and let him in. However, inside, the atmosphere was starkly different and warm. Firewood crackled in the fireplace, filling the entire house with a cozy warmth. The aroma of food was appetizing. Reese, now in casual clothes, sat across from Ren, endlessly praising her cooking. "This is delicious thanks to you. I can satisfy my cravings and eat authentic home-cooked food even in a foreign country." Ren smiled happily. Reese provided the emotional validation that allowed her to experience the joy of cooking. In the past, she had cooked for Lachlan, but he had never once praised her. He often didn't even eat it or didn't come home at all. Even the most delicious meal loses its flavor after being reheated several times. Just like Lachlan himself, no matter how outstanding he was, after disappointing Ren so many times, there was no going back to the way things were. After dinner, Reese voluntarily cleared the table and cleaned the kitchen. As a former Special Forces soldier, his movements were incredibly efficient. In just a few minutes, the dining table and kitchen were sparkling clean. Reese, holding his changed clothes and bathrobe, smiled and said goodbye to Wren. The guest house he had booked was next door to Wren's. He had only come over to use her shower because the hot water pipe in his place had broken. He hadn't expected the surprise encounter with Lachlan. As Reese reached the door, he glanced out the window and saw Lachlan. He instinctively frowned. "Wren, I don't think I can leave today." He pointed to Lachlan, who was sitting on the ground outside, completely unconcerned with his appearance. Wren came over to look, and her good mood vanished instantly. She wouldn't be swayed by Lachlan's suffering. This was a choice he had made for himself. He wasn't without money or a car. If he chose to suffer outside her door, how could he blame her? With a dark expression, Wren called for a few bodyguards to take Lachlan away. Before the bodyguards arrived, she took a picture of Lachlan and sent it to his mother, Eleanor. A moment later, Eleanor called. "Rennie, you just wait. I'll have someone bring him back. I originally wanted him to beg for your forgiveness, but after learning about his nonsense with Joselyn and his coldness towards you, I've come to understand. You can't force feelings. Don't worry, I'll still treat you as well as I always have. It has nothing to do with that brat." With that, Eleanor decisively hung up and asked Wren for the address. Not long after, bodyguards arrived and took the feverish, unconscious Lachlan to a hotel, where a doctor was called to look after him. Wren and Reese exchanged a glance, and Wren suddenly spoke. "Reese, want to go on a spontaneous trip with me?" She and Reese had met in Country C and had gotten along very well, like old friends who had known each other for a long time. For some reason, Wren was certain that Reese would not refuse her request. Reese's eyes curved into a smile as he replied, "I hear the scenery in Iceland is amazing this time of year. Want to chase the northern lights with me?" He extended his hand, and Wren took it without a moment's hesitation. It was warm and dry, and incredibly reassuring. Flying to Iceland on a whim was indeed a crazy idea. Even they couldn't help but laugh at the thought. But they still packed their bags at top speed, grabbed their things, and checked out. The meticulously planned round-the-world trip that Wren had created was suddenly disrupted, but she didn't feel disappointed. Instead, she found it a little thrilling. This unexpected surprise was full of challenges. But Wren wasn't worried at all. Although Reese looked young, he exuded a sense of security. She thought maybe this kind of surprise wasn't so bad after all. Wren and Reese boarded the plane to Iceland. On the flight, they discussed the scenery they liked and made plans together. Even when their discussions got a little heated, both of them were happy. This was a feeling Wren had never experienced before. In the past, with Lachlan, she had wanted to rely on him, to chat and joke with him, to talk about everything and nothing. But with her, Lachlan always seemed to be the silent listener. He never even seemed to care what decisions she made, only saying, "Okay," or "You decide." Just as Wren and Reese's plane landed, Lachlan was gradually waking up. Feeling the warm, soft bed, he almost thought he had been brought into the villa by Wren. However, the cold, sterile decor of the hotel room instantly brought him back to reality. The cool IV fluid entering his veins brought a slight chill. But Lachlan, completely ignoring his weak body, ripped the IV needle from the back of his hand, got out of bed, threw on a coat, and headed for the door. At that moment, his mother, Eleanor, and several bodyguards forcefully pushed him back onto the bed, while a doctor reinserted the needle. "Lachlan Cameron, how long are you going to keep this up?" Eleanor said sternly. Lachlan twitched his fingers and coughed a few times. "Mom, I have to find Rennie, don't stop me." Frustrated beyond belief, Eleanor slapped him across the face. "Are you sober now? If you are, then you'll come back with me quietly. The company needs you, so stop pestering that girl, Wren." "Why?" Lachlan asked, not understanding. "Don't you want Rennie as your daughter-in-law? Do you really want to see her marry another man?" As he spoke, he tried to rip out the needle again. Eleanor closed her eyes in disappointment, so angry she was almost breathless. She rubbed her temples repeatedly and said weakly, "Lachlan, Wren doesn't want to marry you anymore. She has already agreed with your father and me to become our goddaughter. The relationship between our families will remain the same. From now on, you will have to call her your sister." "Sister?" Lachlan repeated the word subconsciously, almost unable to accept the fact. He leaned back on the bed in shock, his eyes filled with helplessness. "Mom, how could you do this? You know I still love Ren. Why would you adopt her as your goddaughter?" As he spoke, his gaze gradually deepened, filled with unwillingness and obsession. But Alina just sighed again and again. "We're doing this for your own good, Lachlan. Let it go. Ren isn't right for you. You've done too many things to wrong her. Your father and I never taught you to have your cake and eat it too. We all saw how much that child used to like you. Now that she doesn't like you anymore, we old-timers can see it more clearly than anyone. Let it go. It's for the best for everyone." Lachlan closed his eyes, unwilling to accept this reality. A cold tear slid from the corner of his eye. He let out a few bitter laughs. Even his self-pity act had no effect. What else could he do to win Ren back? In the past, Ren had always been the one chasing him. Her love had come too easily. Now that it was Lachlan's turn to pursue her, he was completely at a loss. It seemed he was always a step behind, unable to catch up to Ren, unable to make her change her mind. Lachlan lay helplessly on the bed, his eyes squeezed shut, letting desperate tears soak his pillow. His former lover was now his god-sister. Who could stand such a thing? Just thinking about it made Lachlan feel as if his heart was being torn apart. He had no choice. He was too weak now, unable to even break free from the bodyguards to chase after Ren. He could only let his mother take him back to their country. Ren had blocked Lachlan on her social media feed. The only way he could find out her whereabouts was through Melody. His parents, Theodore and Alina, in an effort to make him give up, would only describe Ren and Reese's interactions in words, never letting him see a single photo. They even threw countless projects at him, keeping him swamped with work and restricted his movements. Several bodyguards watched him at all times, reporting his every move to his parents if he stepped out of the designated boundaries. Fortunately, there was still Melody. Lachlan had a hacker constantly monitor Melody's phone, and any information related to Ren was immediately forwarded to him. Lachlan watched as Ren and Reese grew closer and closer. They saw Iceland's volcanoes together, chased the northern lights, climbed glaciers. After leaving Iceland, they went on a survival adventure in a tropical rainforest, spent 7 days and nights on a cruise ship, and more. They had seen all sorts of rare and beautiful sights around the world together. The more Lachlan looked at the photos, the more they stung his eyes. Even though there were very few photos of them together, he could still sense the progression of their relationship through the small details. "Why? We're childhood sweethearts. We have memories that can't be matched. We should be the perfect couple," Lachlan muttered to himself. He was already on the verge of going mad to get his parents to lower their guard. He had been living a quiet, routine life for 3 months. He showed no reaction to any news about Ren. Even when his mother arranged blind dates for him, he accepted calmly. He even had the presence of mind to ask when it was and who the woman was. Alina was finally at ease. But only Lachlan himself knew that he had never let go. The more this feeling was suppressed, the deeper it grew. On the day of the blind date, the number of bodyguards around Lachlan was significantly reduced. Perhaps they thought he had accepted reality and wouldn't try to run away again. However, as soon as he sat down in the coffee shop, before the woman even arrived, Lachlan made an excuse to go to the restroom. Before anyone could realize what was happening, he escaped. Lachlan grabbed his pre-packed luggage and flew to Country D, where Ren was. Country D, just as Lachlan got off the plane, he ran into Ren and Reese outside the airport. Sometimes, fate is just that strange. The more Ren didn't want to see Lachlan, the more she happened to run into him. Lachlan stood in front of Ren, dragging his suitcase, his eyes fixed on her and Reese's intertwined hands. In that instant, his mind went blank. You're really together?" Lachlan instinctively licked his dry lips, his voice hoarse and trembling. Seeing it with his own eyes was far more devastating than seeing it in photos. Before, he could still comfort himself, telling himself they were just friends, just traveling together. But seeing the scene in front of him, Lachlan felt as if his world was collapsing. Ren sized up the somewhat haggard man in front of her, barely recognizing him as Lachlan. She exchanged a glance with Reese, and they both smiled before she nodded solemnly. "We've been together for a month. Wish us happiness." Reese also squeezed her hand and grunted in agreement. Their eyes, when they looked at each other, were full of trust and love. Lachlan couldn't help but feel a surge of jealousy. In the past, that trust and love had been exclusively for him. But now, She had given it all to another man. He couldn't accept it. Only someone who had truly experienced Ren's all-consuming love could understand the pain of completely losing it. Lachlan's face turned chillingly cold. He forced himself between Ren and Reese, separating their hands, and tried to pull Ren into his arms. "Ren, stop messing around. Don't joke like this. He's not right for you. Only I am the one who truly understands you," he screamed, his voice trembling, revealing the insecurity and vulnerability deep in his heart. "We're childhood sweethearts. You've loved me for so many years, and my heart has long been only for you. We would be the most perfect couple. Didn't you want to get married? Let's go. We'll get married as soon as we get back." Lachlan was lost in his self-deceiving fantasy, but Reese bluntly shattered his pipe dream. "Don't even think about it, Lachlan. Ren has already accepted my proposal." As he spoke, he flashed the matching rings on their hands and continued, "We're planning to go back today to meet the parents, and we'll register our marriage in a few days. After that, we'll continue our unfinished journey, and by the way, we can even acknowledge you as our big brother-in-law." As Reese said these words, his face was filled with happiness. Of course, it was also laced with a hint of provocation. What Lachlan had dragged on for years without accomplishing, Reese had decided in just a few short days, giving Ren all the security she needed. Not long after they got together, Reese had already planned out their future. Once they confirmed their intention to be together forever, Reese called his parents to tell them they were a couple. He then had Ren speak to his parents over the phone. Both sides had already met each other's parents online. All that was left was a formal meeting between the two families. Hearing Reese's words, Lachlan was almost driven mad with anger. He gripped Ren's wrist tightly, his eyes red and raw, as he ground out each word with stubborn determination. "Ren, are you really going to marry him? What about me? What am I to you?" His voice choked a few times, his eyes pleading as he looked at Ren. "Rennie, I'm begging you. Forgive me. Let's start over, okay? I'll be good to you forever." Ren mercilessly pulled her hand free from his grasp, her gaze toward Lachlan completely calm. She spoke earnestly. "Lachlan, I gave you many chances in the past, but you never cherished them. Now I have a new life. Are you still trying to trap me by your side? I don't like this kind of life. Let me go. I forgive you, brother." As soon as she said this, Lachlan's hand dropped lifelessly to his side. "Brother." "Huh?" He let out a bitter laugh, the smile on his face more painful than a sob. Seeing Ren and Reese looking so happy, Lachlan suddenly didn't know what the point of his trip was. He was ready to change, to treat Ren well. But why didn't she need that love anymore? Lachlan looked at Reese, his heart filled with jealousy and hatred. Seeing Lachlan's unresigned expression, Reese deliberately planted a kiss on Ren's lips, shooting a provocative glance at him. They continued to walk forward with their suitcases, but Reese turned back and mouthed silently to him, "She's mine." Lachlan stood silently in place, watching the two of them walk further and further away. Suddenly, his phone vibrated. For a fleeting moment, he thought it was a text from Ren. He wouldn't have cared what she sent. But when Lachlan opened it, he saw a text from an unknown number. "Lachlan Cameron, even without me, Ren would not have gone back to you. All your promises are nothing but a joke. You don't love her enough. You just can't let go of how good she was to you. You had one Joselyn, and there could have been a second. In your heart, Ren was always a backup plan. But for us, it's different." The owner of the number was obvious. It was Reese. He had memorized Lachlan's number from Ren's phone and had deliberately sent this message. It was simply to make Lachlan give up. Looking at the text, Lachlan's grip on his phone tightened. He didn't want to admit it, but everything Reese had said was the truth. Lachlan didn't know how he made it back. He was a wandering soul, completely lost. When he returned home, his mother, Elena, was severely startled. She pressed a hand to her heart, took a few deep breaths, and sipped some warm water. "What? Did you finally give up and come back?" Elena was not at all surprised by Lachlan's appearance. She had already heard that Ren and Reese were together. Ren had told her herself. All the elders in their families were very satisfied with this outcome. If they couldn't be in-laws, becoming god family was also good. At least the bond between the two families remained, and things wouldn't escalate to an unmanageable situation. Moreover, it was their Cameron family that had wronged the Scott family in the first place. Thinking of this, Elena shot a frustrated glare at Lachlan. If you had treated Rennie well from the start, would things have come to this? Your father and I even had the shares and property for your marriage prepared, and now we can't even give them away. All right, pull yourself together. In 3 days, our family is officially adopting Ren as our goddaughter. What's done is done. Don't even think about ruining their happiness. With that, Eleanor and Theodore Cameron arranged for over 100 people to watch Lachlan at all times, and even restricted his subordinates from helping him. The day before the adoption ceremony, Reese's parents and Ren's parents had dinner together. The two families sat together, and the atmosphere was very harmonious. Although the Stone family was not a top-tier wealthy family like the Scotts, they came from a long line of military service. Reese had been influenced by his elders and, with his natural talent and physique, had become a special forces soldier. He had retired to recuperate after an accident where he was injured. Both families were very pleased with the marriage, and Reese's mother couldn't help but shed a tear. We're so grateful to Rennie for being with our boy, for helping him walk out of his pain. Otherwise, who knows where in the world he'd be wandering right now. When Reese retired, he had suffered not only severe physical injuries, but also serious psychological trauma. His doctor had recommended that he explore his interests and do things he enjoyed. That was why Reese had gone abroad to see different sights, hoping to find healing in nature. Ren looked at Reese. Even though she already knew his past, she couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy. On this round-the-world journey, it wasn't just him who was healed. She was too. Before meeting Reese, Ren had thought she would never love another person the way she had loved Lachlan. But on their journey, she and Reese had been fortunate enough to meet and become friends. Their hearts gradually grew closer, their heartbeats syncing up. The moment they embraced and confessed their feelings under the northern lights, Ren admitted that she had completely stepped out of the shadow Lachlan had cast over her. When Ren and Reese looked at each other, their smiles were irrepressible. Their hands were clasped together under the table. The meal ended with smiles on everyone's faces. However, they didn't notice that someone had been watching the entire scene from outside the window. Lachlan was bound hand and foot, his mouth gagged, as his father, Theodore, forced him to watch. Well, are you sober now? The Cameron Group will not allow you to continue being so willful. Have you had enough? If you have, then prepare a gift for your sister and future brother-in-law tomorrow. Theodore gave him no room to refuse. Lachlan struggled desperately, his heart still filled with unwillingness. How could someone like Reese be worthy of Ren? Theodore's sharp eyes narrowed, as if he had sensed his son's thoughts. He slapped Lachlan across the face. Reese is in no way inferior to you. At the very least, he is loyal to his feelings. The Cameron family has never produced someone as fickle as you. As soon as he finished speaking, Theodore, ignoring Lachlan's struggles, forcefully dragged him away. The next day, the adoption ceremony was held with great pomp. Countless wealthy families from the capital's high society attended. Countless bottles of expensive red wine were opened, and hundreds of millions were spent. Not to mention the countless flowers and ingredients that were flown in. The level of luxury was staggering. Initially, some people had come with the intention of watching the drama unfold between the Cameron and Scott families. But when they saw the lavish adoption ceremony, they couldn't help but be amazed at how much the Camerons valued Ren. Ren, with her arm linked through Reese's, gracefully entered behind her parents. In front of all the guests, Theodore and Eleanor Cameron presented a pair of treasured jade pendants from the Cameron family collection to Ren and Reese. On this auspicious day, I thank all of you for attending my family's adoption ceremony. With all of you as witnesses, I, Theodore Cameron, will adopt Ren Scott as my goddaughter. From now on, she will be treated as a biological daughter of the Cameron family. Amidst thunderous applause, Theodore transferred 1% of the Cameron Group's shares to Ren. Rennie, consider these shares my welcoming gift to Reese. You keep them safe. Thank you, Godfather. Thank you, Uncle Cameron, Ren and Reese said in unison. Then, Lachlan walked towards Ren, his steps incredibly slow. The gift box in his hand was clutched so tightly it left an imprint, yet he was still reluctant to hand it over. It was as if by doing so, he could stop the ceremony. Unfortunately, his mother, Eleanor, would not allow him to ruin the event. Eleanor smiled, took the gift box from Lachlan's hand, and passed it to Ren, smoothing things over. Rennie, look at your brother. He's so happy he's forgotten how to speak, he even forgot to give you your gift. Ren didn't mind. She smiled understandingly, took the gift box, and said in a clear, sweet voice, "Thank you for the gift, brother." Before Lachlan could react, Wren placed the gift box in Rhys's hands, signaling for him to hold it. Lachlan stared at Wren's face, searching for any trace of reluctance. He thought that if there was even a sliver of unwillingness, he could disregard everything, stop the ceremony, and take her away. But until the very end of the party, Wren's smile was one of pure happiness. Her happiness was not given by him. Lachlan watched the retreating backs of Wren and Rhys, and a sharp pain that spread from the bottom of his heart almost brought him to his knees. Cough, cough, he coughed uncontrollably and stubbornly chased after them. As soon as the ceremony ended, Wren, following her plan, rushed to City Hall with Rhys. Thump, the metal stamp came down. 2 new red booklets were issued, and Wren's heart was still pounding wildly. She could hear Rhys's heartbeat, just as fast as hers. They stood dumbfounded outside the registry office, so happy they didn't know what to say, only able to make some meaningless, excited noises. Lachlan was a step too late. He arrived, panting, and stopped in front of Wren, only to see the marriage certificates in her and Rhys's hands. The little red booklets stung his eyes. He moved his lips, but could only manage one sentence. "I wish you happiness." After this insincere phrase escaped his lips, Lachlan no longer had the courage to stay. He fled in utter disarray. Lachlan drove aimlessly. His deep love had come too late. The next time he heard of Wren, it was when he saw photos of her and Rhys's traveling wedding. They left their mark in every corner of the world. In every place they stopped, they learned the local customs and got married again. Lachlan clung to his memories and threw himself completely into his work.